Okay, welcome everyone to today's webinar, Successful Marketing Communications for Small Associations. Our presenter today is Denise Gevelin, who is the owner and marketing strategist at Gevelin and Associates, a Washington, D.C.-based consulting firm. Since 2008, her team has developed and implemented multi-channel marketing campaigns for associations throughout the country. Her team manages branding, conference marketing, membership recruitment and retention campaigns, communication audits, developing marketing communication strategies, and much more. Prior to starting her business, she was Director of Marketing for ASE and for ACLI. Denise also serves on the board for Facet, Fairfax County, Virginia organization, which assists families in need. So with that, Denise, the floor is yours.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for taking a couple of minutes to talk with me, and listen about successful marketing and communications for small associations. I've been in the marketing and communications field for 25 years, which is hard to believe sometimes. So I bring with me a lot of experience, not only as a consultant on my own, but with I have corporate experience and, of course, association experience. So here we are. In the past 10 years, I've owned this company, and I've been working with small associations very, very closely to advance their mission, to advance and understand the value of using marketing and the value of using communication strategies in order to be successful and to advance the mission of your organization. So, let's start by this. Let's talk about what marketing really is. I went online. There's thousands and thousands of quotes of what is marketing, and there are a lot of textbook definitions of marketing, but these two spoke to me the most. Marketing is about sharing your passion. And I feel like in my world, I'm incredibly passionate about not only my company, but the associations that we work with on a daily basis and sharing what they have to have with their target audiences. The other quote I love here, good marketing makes the company look smart, but great marketing makes the customer feel smart. And I think there are so many organizations out there who do this so well. It's about making the customer feel like they've made a good buying decision, a good investment of their time, a good investment of their money. If you have the ability to really turn that message to make the customer feel like they've done a really good thing by engaging with your association, I think you've hit a home run with marketing. So there's a couple just top ones. Marketing boils down to one core document in my world, which is a development of a marketing communications plan. And as we noted in the description of today's webinar, that's one of the core things we want to talk about. I can't tell you how many times I've spoken at conferences and I've asked the room, how many people have a well-written, thorough marketing communications plan guiding your efforts? And I'll look around the room and there'll be 85 people and 6 hands will go up. And I'm like, well, then how are you marketing your products and services if you haven't thought it through yet? So I am a constant disciple of using marketing plans. And today we're going to go through how you develop one. So how do we begin a marketing communications planning effort? Well, it starts with research. We need to know some things about your association. If you're trying to recruit members, it's good to know who your competitors are. You need to know a little bit about your target audience. If you're trying to recruit, who is that audience that you want to recruit? And what might they know about your association? Do they have a past relationship with you? Have they never heard of you? Are they fresh out of college? What communication tactics have you used in the past? What has worked and what hasn't? And what messages have worked and what haven't? And this is some of your baseline research. Ideally, your marketing plan even starts with bigger research, which is benchmarking data to show where what your potential audiences know about your organization and how you need to move the needle to get them more engaged. But I know small associations do not have a big budget, so oftentimes we start with some of this baseline knowledge that we use in order to influence the development of our marketing communications plan. And I bet if you looked in your own resources, in your own organizations, you'd have some of this information available. So we start with research, right? And then we go through, there are going to be 8 components of a marketing communication plans I'm going to lay out for you today, but then there are a couple I'd like to highlight in more detail because I feel like they're the most critical aspects of the plan. You need a goal. What are you trying to accomplish with your marketing communication effort? Is it that you want to position your association as the biggest thought leader in international communication strategies? Or you want a goal where you want to position your organization as a thought leader in the advancement of the nursing profession? You need a goal, and the reason you need that goal is because you want to keep going back to it and saying, is everything I'm doing within marketing helping me reach that goal? So once you've identified that goal, let's lay out some objectives for your marketing effort. What would you like to do? Do you want to increase membership by 5%? Do you want to increase conference registration by 2%? Are you just hoping you'll increase the number of people who visit specific landing pages on your website? Objectives are very measurable. So you might say, I want to increase website views to our website by 6% by the end of 2019. You put your goals, your objectives will support your goals, and then you will be able to build your campaign around trying to reach those two. The next component, and we're going to talk a few more minutes about this in a few slides, is the audience. Who are the people? Where do they live? What are their interests? Do they know your association? We need to identify that. That's some of your research that you've done up front. And you'll probably take time to really look at those audiences in terms of, are they your primary audience, your secondary audience, or your tertiary audience? Who matters the most, and when do you need to reach them? Messaging. This is probably one of the biggest trouble that a lot of associations have. What are we going to say about our organization? What kind of persuasive messages could we design and try that will help people understand what we're all about? So those are some of the, and again, we're going to go through more of this. I'm just giving you an overview right now. So those are the top 4 there. After you've identified your goals, your objectives, your audiences, and your messages, you get to the really fun part, which are the tactics. This is the part where everybody gets excited because we need to figure out how we're going to reach our audience. We then need to build a timeline. What's the ideal time to get in front of this target audience? Your budget. And I know, again, small associations have limited budgets, but it doesn't mean that a small budget can't work in terms of helping you get your marketing message across. And then evaluation. Everybody looks at the numbers. How well did we perform? How well will we know if we're successful? So those are the core components of developing your marketing plan. Let's go into them in a little bit more detail. Let's start with audiences. One thing, and I've heard over and over in my career, is, well, we just want to meet the general public. Well, guess what? The general public doesn't exist. I don't want to be considered the general public. You don't want to be considered the general public. Look at the mail you receive in your mailbox every day. Hopefully, it's at least targeted demographically, or it's targeted by your interests that are available publicly. So I'm a big proponent of saying no general public. That does not exist in marketing. The marketing is about a person. The marketing is about the one-on-one relationship you want to develop with that individual. And you need to ask yourself, when you're marketing, how can I customize my outreach and how can I segment my outreach? I know that associations often have challenges with that because your AMS systems, I know people are using these old legacy systems and they're like, we don't even really know when somebody joined. We don't know the last time they attended a conference. I get it. But you have to be creative in terms of customizing and segmenting your outreach. I met with a client a couple of weeks ago who gave me that same feedback. We can't customize. We don't have enough valuable data. And I said, well, could we at least pull a list of individuals whose membership has lapsed in the past 12 months? And they said, oh, well, yeah, sure, we can do that. I said, can we go back 18 months? Yeah. They said, we can do that. And I said, see, that's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about knowing every book they bought and every conference they attended. If you don't have that level of detail in your database, that I can tell you there is some way you can segment. And so when I proposed that idea, can you go back 12 months? Guess what? I now have a segmented marketing list. And I can go to those folks with a custom message that says, we understand you lapsed 12 months ago. We'd like to have you, here's an opportunity to join us again. So I encourage you, no matter how good or how bad your AMS system may be, to figure out ways to customize and really narrow down your audience segmentation. Once you know your audience, you can develop your messaging. This statistic blew me away, okay? Studies show the average consumer is exposed to 10,000 brand messages a day, and that we switch between screens 21 times an hour. I hope I don't do that. I don't think I do, but you never know. Which means that the average person's attention span is 8 seconds. I don't know how many, I wish I were in a room and could have you raise your hands and tell me how many of you agree with that. But think about that, 8 seconds. You have 8 seconds to get to somebody's attention and communicate in those 8 seconds. So boy, isn't that just a little bit of pressure on the marketing person and the branding and the communications team? Isn't that a little bit of pressure? Yes, but we can solve that. I'm not afraid of any pressure. So I'm going to introduce you, and probably you've heard this before, to the Marketing and Communications Person's radio station, which is called WIIFM. And I hope there's a collective laugh. This acronym has been around a really long time. When I practiced this last night, my husband looked at me and he's like, really? You're using WIIFM? I said, I am, because I need to get into somebody's brain with a message that's for them, not for me. So I encourage you to think that through when you talk about your messaging strategy. It really is, at the end of the day, it's about your messages. Communication's 2 ways. You need to build a relationship between yourself and the receiver. You need to communicate with them, not at them. You need to know what objective you're trying to achieve with your marketing message. Are you trying to persuade somebody? Are you trying to just inform them? Are you trying to change their behavior? Persuasion could be, hey, we're trying to persuade you to join our organization. Informing could be, look, there's a legislative issue that's influencing our industry. Here is the information we need you to understand, and here's how you can take action. So when you're writing your messaging strategy, just think about that. What are you hoping somebody will do with that message, and what are you trying to get them to do? Persuade, inform, or change their behavior. Make sure your messages are clear and consistent across all platforms and look credible. If you've never done a communication audit on your own organization's materials, I encourage you to put that on the top of your list when you have free time, of course. But put it on your list. I've done multiple communications audits over the years, and it completely floors me. I don't know why it shouldn't, since I've done so many, but it floors me how organizations really have not taken a close look at how they are communicating across various platforms. It may not be clear on Facebook what you do. It may not be consistent on Facebook compared to what your website says about you. Your marketing numbers may say you have 15,000 members in one vehicle, and then your brochure that you're still using from 3 years ago says 12,000. So that's where an audit is important. And you look at making your messages clear, consistent, and by being clear and consistent, you earn credibility. Highly recommend testing your messages over and over again. Using ABCD tests for email subject lines, website headlines, social media posts, printed materials, and then refine the messages as needed. So this whole business about A, B, and C testing, let me tell you, I, again, worked with a small organization to run some conference promotions. What you see here are digital ads that we ran. You're probably familiar with web retargeting. It's when the ads follow you around the website. You visited Amazon's website, you looked at a pair of shoes, and that ad keeps following you whatever website you visit. That's a very short synopsis of web retargeting. These ads were designed to do that in order to get people interested in a conference. We did a web campaign for 3 weeks with these 3 different ads. This is a sample of A, B, and C testing. If we were in the room, I'd ask you to raise your hand and tell me which one do you think generated the most interest. But since we're not together, I will tell you that the ad series that said 3 days and 30 new ideas worked the best. It brought in the most registrations, And then the next one brought in the Make Your Plan You Believe In, that brought in registrations. The Must Attend Nonprofit Conference in 2018 did not perform at all. But the point is, these are not expensive ads to run. It is not expensive to test 3 ads like this and watch their performance over a couple weeks so you can understand what drives your audience's behavior. Now, we just talked about web retargeting for a minute. What tactics work? Well, it's hard for me to tell you. This busy slide it's busy intentionally because there are so many communication tactics out there right now. But I'm going to show you what's in the core of both of these grids that are up here is your website. If you don't have a good website and you don't sound credible and authoritative and clear and look well-branded, you're doing your organization a big disservice. And I know that it's expensive to redo websites, and I know sometimes the branding that goes along with it can be, but you've got to have a good website. It is the first place we as consumers go to find more information about an organization. So while there's all these other tactics, and you have to decide what fits into your budget and what can work within your marketing communications plan, I seriously suggest you focus on your website. You also have to leverage social media. This is no surprise. Social media has been around a really, really long time. This quick chart shows you that Facebook and Instagram have really grown with the small and medium business professionals. This is somewhere I thought was a good tactic, good idea to kind of look at. You've got to focus on your social media strategy. How do you leverage your social media? Again, this information's been around a really long time, but some small associations are still not using social media properly. You've got to post 3 or 4 times a week. You've got to track what generates engagement. You should have an editorial calendar that helps you plan out your month of posts. You need to look at the social media channels your target audience are using, and you really need to use a lot of visuals and video. Over the years, I've been managing social media accounts for several associations. Tracking engagement is really important. I know which posts are going to get people excited and responsive. But I don't know that about other associations. A lot of it is trial and error, and you've got to just do some testing. Building a brand identity. This is another part of your marketing communications effort. You're building this marketing plan, right? You're looking at what are your tactics looking like? What are we going to do from a social media strategy? Well, what about your identity? These are some sample logos that I've worked with for clients. 1 is for a conference, and 2 are for either Healthcare Simulation Week is an observation week that's actually taking place right now as we speak. And the other is iDonation Month, which takes place in November. But these, when you're talking about tactics and you're talking about your website in particular and looking credible and looking clear, investing in a brand identity is important. And it's also important as part of your planning effort to build a campaign look. Right. So again, let's go back and say you're writing a marketing communications plan to recruit new members. You need something that people feel confident reading and will be receptive to. So that's a sample of a campaign look that we did for a client. And these are other samples of campaign looks for conferences. You can work with a graphic designer on a very limited budget to get to this point, so that when you're in the implementation phases of your plan, it looks cohesive and it looks credible and it looks exciting, so that you have very interesting things to show when you're going out to the public. So those are some of the components of your plan. Let's go into the next phase, which is measuring impact, right? And I told you I'm not going every step of the plan, but these are some of the most important ones to me. We get asked this all the time. How do we know if it worked? How are we going to measure impact? I don't know if it worked. Is anybody listening? Is anybody listening? That's kind of how I feel now. I hope you guys are listening. You know, how do we measure impact? Of course, we look at email open rates. And if you have an opportunity to do subject line testing in your emails, I highly recommend it. You know, website visits. Your plan is trying to get more people to visit a specific page for your conference or to join. How many page visits increased? What about conversions and responses to offers? You know, we get a lot of people who will say there's an early bird discount. There's a $25 off membership fee. How do those conversions, how did those come in? Did your registration increase? Did your membership grow over the specific time? Remember, in the beginning of your plan, you laid out objectives, your growth rate by 2020, your increase in attendance by the 2019 conference. You should be able to take the objectives you wrote and match them up to the measurement and see if you made an impact. Timeline and budget. Oh, this is the worst part, right? This is the worst part because everybody wants things done right away. You're like, okay, I'm going to go write this marketing plan. We have 3 months till our conference starts. We're going to bring in another 100 registrants. Is that realistic? I don't know. I don't know your registration history. I don't know the patterns of when people register, but think that through when you're being so that you're realistic, and then you can over deliver, right? You can under promise, over deliver on your results. When does the work need to be done? Do we need to outsource it? What's the reach of our work? What is the marketing tactics going to cost? And what does success look like? So this seems like pretty basic stuff, but it's really critical to start thinking because you don't want to sit there. It's often really good for me to know what a marketing budget is before I write the plan, because then I'm like, oh, they have a $20,000 marketing budget. Okay, this is what we can do for that amount of money. If they have $100,000, I'll be like, okay, well, we're going to get you 100 videos and all these other things. But it's good for you to know how much of a budget you have to work with, and then really what is the timeline working backwards. A lot of organizations do conference marketing and they'll wait and start conference marketing 6 months before the conference. To me, conference marketing takes place all year round. The minute your one conference ends, the next conference marketing effort starts. So don't stop and start it. It's a long cycle, but it's one that's got to be really consistent. So I'm going to share with you here. This is a really fun slide to me because these are some of my cheat sheets. I will tell you, these are some of the ways that I work every day and that help my clients be a little bit more successful with their marketing efforts. If you do not have a big graphic design budget, which, you know, it's not always, everybody does, there's a website called canva.org that you can subscribe to for $10 a month. And that $10 a month, there are all kinds of templates, there are tutorials, there are ways that you can build your own graphics. In particular, I use this for developing social media graphics for my clients. I'm not a designer, but I can get by with some pretty standard pieces. I just learned about subjectline.com. I don't know if any of you have learned about that, but this evaluates your subject line for length and effectiveness, and it makes recommendations. It gives you a score on a range from 0 to 100, how effective it thinks your subject line is. And so I've been testing that out. I think the highest score I got was 75. I haven't hit 100 yet, but I'm going to try. If you haven't heard of Fiverr, Fiverr is like a crowdsourcing freelancers service marketplace. You need to find a videographer, you need to find a copywriter, you need to find a script writer. You go into Fiverr and you can find people all over the world. I did have a video guy from Australia who I worked with many times on some pretty basic videos, but they did the job. Hootsuite for social media management, GIFmaker for interactive graphics, Unsplash, that's a new one I just learned about too, 650,000 high-res photos for free. I think I used a couple of them in my presentation today. The AP Style Book, because I'm a grammar police, and you'll see Grammarly.com. So all these resources are available to you when you are developing your marketing plan and when you're into the implementation phase. So I know we're running a little short on time. We've got 5 minutes left. But so where does the Gavilan Associates team fit in? I'm not going to give you the blah, blah, blah. You already know we're in DC. We've been around for 10 years. But this is what I'm passionate about, okay? We're here to advance your mission, to partner with you and your team to advance your mission. We're here to help you make your association look good, graphically, visually, credibility. We can help you build those strategic marketing plans that we just very briefly just talked about today. We can demonstrate that investing in marketing is an investment in your association's future. And I say this one with a lot of pride because I had one of my clients say to me recently that their board was so happy about a Gold Circle award that we won for them that they said, we need to start investing more money in marketing. I know, who hears that? But that was important. That's an important message that our organization can help you figure out. And we also want to show you, and I've tried a little bit today, that marketing doesn't have to cost a fortune. It has to be well thought out. You need a plan. It has to be consistent. It has to be multi-channel. And it has to be intentional. So with that, I know it was quick, but I will open it up for questions.
All right. Thank you very much, Denise. By the way, the slide that said you have 8 seconds to capture our attention, you have maybe 3 or 4 seconds with me. I am less.
3 or 4 seconds left? Okay.
Also, that resources slide was fantastic.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's what I figured. Okay.
So let me ask a couple questions here, a few questions here. The first is, what are some of the biggest marketing challenges that small associations face?
It's resources. It's staff. It's the same. I hear all the time. We have 4 people on staff, and 1 person does marketing, HR, and invoicing. It's resources.
Yeah, but I totally agree with that. I think most people would as well.
Yeah.
Another question was, how can small associations prioritize their marketing efforts?
Well, that's a very good question. I guess you have to look at your strategic plan and make sure your marketing efforts are meeting the needs of your strategic plan. So if your strategic plan is focused on international membership growth between now and 2020, you got to get a good marketing plan in place. Otherwise, you're not going to be successful. So I would look there first.
All right. We have one last one here. How can we convince management that marketing is a worthwhile investment, or perhaps the board management?
Mm-hmm. I think you need to show. That's another good question. I think you need to show the results of if you're not being successful now with what you're doing, but there's a lot of potential. I think you can use your own results and then use some case studies to show how other organizations are being successful by investing in their marketing effort. I really do. And ask them to give, you need an opportunity. Show them.
All right.
So any other questions come in?
That is it. So I would like to thank you, Denise, from Gavilan & Associates. It's gavilandassociates.com for your time today and a great presentation, especially the slide that's up here right now. That subjectline.com is one that we will start using.
I know that's another client uses it. I'm like, what is this? Yeah, it's pretty interesting. So
that's fantastic.
Yeah.
So I'd like to thank all of our audience here for attending as well, and thank you for your time. Of course, the full list of our webinars can be found on our website, and I hope you all enjoy the rest of your week, and thank you again, Denise.
Okay, thank you. Take care.